Hello, my second grade writers. Today, we are going to be focusing a little bit more into our small moment piece of writing. And today, I want us to really zoom into our beginnings and our endings to our stories. So, before we get into this piece of writing, I just want us to take a look at one of the texts that we've read together, Owl Moon, and we're going to see what the author Jane Yolen does in this book and see if we can do some of the same things in our writing. So we're going to compare the first page, which is our beginning, to the last page, which is going to be your page 5 on your packets. All right, so listening closely to this. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us, a train whistle blew long and low, like a sad, sad song. So let's think about that for a moment. What do you think the author was doing here? What did she try to do? So Jane Yolen was trying to really paint us a good picture of what was going on, what was the setting like. She told us that the trees stood as still as giant statues. So we have trees all around us, and that the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine even though it's nighttime. So she's putting things in here to really make us think about the setting and what's going on all around. And she also includes some other things in here as well that make it a great beginning. But we're going to stop and flip right to the back. And this is the ending to the story. When you go owling, you don't need words or warm or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. Wow, it paints another great picture. So, what I love that the author did here is she connected something from the first page to the very last page. And it creates a very powerful ending and it wraps up the whole story all together. So, what did she connect from the beginning to this, right to the end? I think a lot of you are right. She keeps mentioning this moon under a shining owl moon. And then this one on the front, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. So that's her connection that she made to kind of wrap up this story. And she also includes stuff about Pa, right? She included that Pa and herself went owling, and then back here, she was talking about how Pa was telling her that all she needs is hope when you go out owling. Creates a really powerful ending and a beginning. So we're going to try to transfer some of this to our own writing. So I'm not going to modify any of my first page because I've already done some modifications. But what I think that some of you can do at home is think about the setting, where your story is taking place. Did you tell about it? Can I close my eyes and see it? So on my first page, I included that it was a beautiful fall morning and I was so excited to see all my students. So you know what? I'm actually going to slide something in here. It was a beautiful fall morning, and I can just create a little arrow. And guess what? You can do the same thing at home. We're going to slide an arrow up here, and I'm going to start using a pencil because I need to write just a little bit smaller. Morning, and this at this time the leaves are starting to change colors. So this would actually be a great time to see that some of the trees are looking a little bare up in my picture. And the trees were, ooh, this is going to get juicy. You ready? Glowing red and orange. And I'm going to put a period here because that's a really good complete thought. It was a beautiful fall morning and the trees were glowing red and orange. Oh my goodness. I can see myself here again. And that works out well because this can be a thought all of its own. I was so excited to see all my students because I was including a little bit of feeling in my beginning as well, kind of like what Jane did in Owl Moon as well. All right, so I think I've made a much better adjustment to my first page. Perfect. Now, let's think about my very last page. What I want to have happen. So remember, I had the birds. I walk around to the front of the building. This is on later pages. And I lock my truck, and all of a sudden the birds come out of this bush. And one bird comes flying around to the door, and it's kind of stuck there, running itself into the door. I was thinking it wanted to come into the school and learn today. And then this happened. This is my last page. It flew away. So that's what ended up happening. I'll get my marker back. There it is. So I'm going to begin writing my last page. I haven't done the illustration yet, but that can wait. So, all of a sudden, and I love using those 4 words because it creates some mystery for whoever is reading this and they want to read more. All of a sudden, a burst of wind came from behind period. That's a thought right there. All of a sudden, a burst of wind came from behind, just like a jet of, and this is going to get juicy if you remember from my beginning, just like a jet of red and orange. Just like a jet of red and orange leaves, the bird flew off. Do you see what I did there? I made a connection from the beginning of my story. I find my beginning, there it is. My beginning, where I said the trees were glowing red and orange, and I threw it also into my ending as well. And it just it wraps up the story, and it creates a way for us to just imagine what I was seeing at that moment, and it just completes the story. So the bird flew off. And we can add another thought in here. This bird was, and I know because some of you were worried about this bird was going to be okay. And I'm sure it was off to find its family. And I created a nice heart-filled ending for my story that wraps up the problem, which was the bird being stuck at the window, and it makes a nice resolution for the whole story. So, the 2 things that you need to do today. Number 1, make sure you have a good setting. On first page, make sure you definitely have your setting all set, which is everything going on around you. And number 2, great ending. And for your great ending, try to connect to your first page. All right. So these are your 2 goals for the next couple of days. Make sure you have a great setting on that first page. If you need to add more detail like I did, feel free to squeeze it in wherever you can. Draw arrows. Just make sure you're able to read it and I can read it. Feel free to cross out too. I just don't want you guys erasing. And number 2, make sure you have a great ending and try to connect it to your first page and try to just create a great wholesome ending for your story so that the problem is resolved and everything is perfect. All right. Good luck, 2nd grade. You guys got this.